improve on. It wasn't terrible. I mean, we were able to recertify, and we're getting ready for July because we're going to be doing recertification, and then next year we'll do the ISO 22,000. Is that the new one?
Yeah.
And then food safety. We're going to be certified for that.
Oh, wow. Great.
We got a lot to get ready for, so we can be certified for that.
Yeah, boredom will be a problem for you for a long while, it sounds like.
Yes.
Hi, Judith. How are you doing?
I'm good, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening. So you still on travel?
So we're back.
Okay.
Next one will be in a couple of weeks, beginning of April. Going overseas for work.
Yeah, where you headed?
We're going into the Caribbean. We're going to visit a couple of the international locations that we do business with, the Dutch and the French.
So you got that fun travel and adventure mark block pretty well, it sounds like.
Until they send us to Afghanistan again, sir. That's short-lived.
Good. Looks like we got everybody. So Jay is, and you guys mentioned, was he also on TDY?
He's back from Guam, sir. I'm sending him the address. He was unable to pull the address. I'm sending it to him now.
Well, it's good to be back with you, and while we're waiting for Jay to join us, we'll just say a few things. As I mentioned, we have a change in assignments because of the function of the schedule. And one of the things I would like for you guys to do is that this presentation, our discussion tonight, really takes the place of your team assessment. I'll get a pretty good feel for where you are in the project and tell me, about how you are in preparation, what you want to need, areas, and it will be kind of informal. We'll walk through the slides and talk about them, and then I'll highlight on two things. One is areas I think you should emphasize particularly. Most of it's going to be towards the back end of your presentation for your final brief, and then we'll kind of cover talk about Champion and where you are with that briefing. And I think I'll wait till Jay joins us on that. Do any of you have any questions? Either where we're at, the assignments, or the way ahead?
I had a question to any do outs on the page right now. We're inserting the Q1. I know that some people are not able to read it the first time. So I know that we still do the team assessments.
Yeah, let me just
making sure that we're covering any.
Yeah. Let me kind of just give you a quick overview on the assignment. Initially, there was the individual self-assessment that was asked to be done. So that became an optional one. If you didn't turn it in, no problem, because I'm going to talk to you individually tonight. I got a pretty good feel for where you are. Also, the second assignment was team assessment. And this slide deck that you have here will suffice for that, what the areas you need and our discussion tonight. All right, so upload this into the portal for your assigned team self-evaluation, this slide deck. After we talk tonight, there'll probably be some revisions that you'll have to this. That one, after you make some revisions, there are any changes, you're certainly going to be adding into your briefing from your champion. That will go in to the mid session 1. So whatever changes we have tonight, and you're going to put the champion comments in and you already have them this week, that's fine. You upload this with whatever changes from tonight. Now your final briefing, once we get together at briefing and you go through the final class and whatever comments that you may have, maybe just to slide down, go into your assignment. So this, you get a lot of mileage out of this particular slide deck because it's the baseline, this is really the focus, this is your oral pieces. And so tonight, just upload this one as it is. That will count as a team and our conversation we have tonight. So I'll be given credit for that. And then when we do have then is changes to this after whatever you do this, make that. So that will go into the second assignment for mentoring session 1. And then your final brief, after we do the briefing, you upload that and it'll be the same one that will go into the tracker. And there's just 2 discussion questions opened up for this last week. These are one's on closure and what was the other one on? My memory. One was on closure and another one's tangible, intangible, which we'll talk about tonight. Results. So you answer those 2 questions. There is another discussion question that can be finished by the end of the course, which is the 21st of this month. In it, it's a reflection about the degree program, value of it, whatever you would like to share with myself and your fellow classmates. That is an optional one, but that's the only other assignment you have. Then after we do our final briefing, then you will upload to the tracker your final brief, your feedback from your champion at MS Word doc. We need to have that as well as a summary of his comments put in slides. So those are the things and be your final assignment. So basically those are the things that you have to do for this course. Judith, do you still have a question or anything yet?
I'm listening.
Hey, welcome.
How you doing?
You've been out in the exact places like Guam, huh?
Oh, it was nice out there, nice and warm.
Well,
I'm back in Georgia. It's not nice or warm.
Okay. Hey, well, good. I'm glad to have all of you here. And I know some of you have been doing considerable amount of travel. Easter's coming up. Time family travel for that. So I know you would like to put this course in behind so you can enjoy your Easter and celebrate with the family. And also, you'll probably have a change in routine. You probably won't know what to do with your Wednesday nights anymore. But be sure to tell your family that you're not out having a course on Wednesday, okay? Just in case they ask. The focus is what I've laid out here. Is there anybody have any questions? From Robert? You know where we're headed? All right. If not, let me ask you. Understand you've talked with the champion, you've given some brief already. Well, can you just give me an idea where you are in reference closing this out with the champion?
We had a briefing with him a couple weeks ago, I think, maybe 3 weeks ago. and we presented him the presentation and showed him the recommendations. But he seemed like he was on board, and we didn't get to meet. We were supposed to meet him, I think, last week or the week before. I don't remember. But you all didn't have school that day, so Elaine wasn't there the day that we were supposed to meet.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
told us that day that we could either meet again or just send him the updated slides, and he would look at them and then sign and write whether he approved or approved some of the recommendations.
Yeah, as I recall, when we were last, and Matthew sent me that you guys had intended to get together, and Elaine Moore, I guess, arranged to go to a meeting, and that was, I guess, she's now working with a new school, and I guess they were closed that day for some reason.
Yeah, she said they were closed because of the snow. Like it was a snow day or something, I think.
Yeah, yeah. We're all kind of getting adjusted to the new school in regard to their modus operandi, and they're up in Boston, so that place has been hammered. The Northeast has, and some of your compatriots up there, like Ron, that's working up in that neighborhood, they've been getting a lot of snow, a lot of bad weather, a lot of high wind, which is, people are just losing power, which was the case down here in DC as well. If your champion has questions, you would maybe send it or email them to you. It sounds like if you give him a preliminary brief, and if he's got particular areas, and maybe after we kind of go through a discussion tonight, there may be other things you may want to advise him, or maybe talk to him about, or maybe sharpen up a bit. But we need to, after this, we need to be sure that you get back and provide whatever information, one, you feel that may be necessary, that what we talked about tonight, that you want to add some additional things to it, or answer his questions you have, which you already presented. And we need that into that MS Word document is where he needs to say, yeah, accept, and that. When we get to the recommendations, I recommend a format for your recommendations is actually to number them. A lot of times the champion finds that convenient. For instance, they'll go in and say, look, the team gave me 10 recommendations. I really pretty clear. I'm going to implement 1 through 5, 6. Might require some funding, or I need to talk to the personnel folks. That's a longer-term thing. I'm going to consider that, but I can implement that right away. 7 and 8, I'm going to get some more information before I make a decision on. So a lot of times that is kind of how they write up their feedback. And if you number the recommendations, here are 1, 2, 3, 4 things we're providing to you. It makes that feedback a little easier. So the format technique. It's also even good. I do keep back. I usually number them, so it's very clear. They say, okay, let's talk about number 1 or 2, 3, and so it's a briefing technique. That's it's helpful. Okay, but I need to know though, if the champion going to be there, Jay? Is he got any travel or any other things that might preclude you guys getting back with him next few days, and certainly before the 21st?
I don't think I've been transferred over to a different squadron, but looking at the calendar, I still look through the calendar. I don't see anything that he has planned.
Okay. All right. How about you guys? Do you have any further travel that may need to be tapped into getting back with him as a team? It's good if you could, get back with him as a team to do that. And if you need to get a good meeting set up, I checked in with her and then gave me the same information that you guys did. She should be able to set that up for you, but I may be able to take a tablet in with me at work and go outside because I can't use these in secure areas and do go to meeting and get you started. But let me know. After we have the session tonight, what your plans are and how you manage the champion. And if you would, send me a tentative date when you're going to, think you can get the feedback from him. I'd like to take a look at that, and if it's all positive and rosy, that's great. If it's issues in there about he wants more information, or even he wants to know how the information is going to be used, I'll be glad to talk to him about that. So don't wait to the last minute here. Let's figure out the schedule and get that into the queue, and find out if there's any further questions or clarifications that he needs. And if you guys are puzzled about it, maybe we can have another discussion. So. Because the intent typically for this course, we have one tonight as we go through, and then next time there'll be a briefing. And that's where you guys get back, just like we did in the business process. So each one of you does a portion of this briefing. And Matthew, you get your comments put together. We'll go through for about 30 minutes, and then I'll listen to you quietly. And then after that, you do a self-critique, and then we do the final feedback from me, and then I'll make an appraisal about recommendations to the school, whether you hit the target. If not, if there's something that's missing, I'll let you know. But I want to walk through tonight and kind of talk a little bit about the briefing and areas to emphasize, because time is the biggest element. I think, last time all of you were challenged. So I want you to be able to rehearse the briefing among yourself and actually go through that. And this is going to be your last hurrah. You want to have this done very well. You want to take a lot of pride into it, that this is going to be important. I will also say, let me just give you an observation that I've had a lot of students come back and said they have actually used this briefing, this final deliverable that you're doing for the school, and when you apply for jobs, when they look for what have you done, resumes, you can put the information there, like how much money did you generate with your ROI, what was the feedback from the champion, the fact that you did this as a team. All these type of things are very valuable to employers. And I've always reflected back, I've had between him and another guy for a position, and he submitted basically this final briefing and said, here's what I did, here's what we did to save money, here's the tools we used, and we worked together as a team. And employers really like to see that, and that made the difference. He actually was thrilled that he got hired from this as well. And if any of you are going to go to PMP or continue with your PMP, that certification, this project is proof of that, what you did, because it also, they will want to know for certification how many hours you spend on the project, did you do, and were you involved in all the different project management phases. And this one certainly meets the target. And a lot of times if you go for that certification, they'll ask for, or they require actually, how many hours of experience do you have? And you've got a year's worth here, and I can be the point of contact for you in regards to if they want to have who to talk to, because I know the projects, I know about how long they take, and so you can use this in other ways. So you really want to make this from many different perspectives, not only for the champion, not only for the academic endpoint, is that you may have other utility for this. We have projects, new cohort coming in. The champion is actually thinking about briefing their higher headquarters and taking their project and briefing his boss's boss on what they came up with. So this sometimes has that life. Okay, let me ask then as we go through, or just kind of talk about, have you split up your responsibilities yet about who's going to be briefing what slides?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So you kind of let me know as you go through who's going to be taking what. And so who's going to start out for you?
I am, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
You're
sir.
going to be the pace center, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let me, at the beginning, because we've heard this before, right? You've gone through a briefing. We've talked about these. You talked about them all the different classes as you go through. So I'm going to cover with you what I think are some of the key points. again, what I'm going to be listening for, my outcome's a little bit different from the champion. The champion wants to know, how can I get that non-mission capable readiness rate better, based on your problem statement. I am looking to see if you also can explain and use these tools. So it's always helpful. I always would recommend to you, whenever you do the briefing, just go back and look at your notes and say, okay, what's the definition of a SIPOC? What are the key things I should say? Look back at use Nancy Teague's book or use some of the highlights and say, okay, hey, we got a SIPOC. This is a high level view of our project. It provides a complete, set of everything from our suppliers to our customers involved with that. And then you explain what's on the chart, okay? And you kind of do that as you go through. That's the part that I'm looking for, is that you can explain the tool and then use it appropriately. In weaving what you learned from the course into your narrative, it's always good, because I am also here to evaluate what did you learn over the past year. And a lot of times, the difficulty in either getting into the data or rewriting the problem statement more than once, and what did you learn from that? What did you learn from your teammates? If you can weave that into your narrative as well, that's often very helpful. As I go through and would recommend, when you look at the amount of time you spend, okay, and I think let's take a look at how many charts you got right here. Looks like this is chart 25, and there's going to be a few more you're going to add in when we talk about them later before we get together. And there's going to be one or two I recommend on your backup that you should put in. So you're going to have probably around 25 to 30 charts, or probably 20 to 25 charts here. And so 30 minutes, you should spend the majority and the weight of the stuff around the data that you collected, your recommendations, and your analysis, and then the actual results that you've got. So the front part of this should go fairly quickly. You don't want to spend as much time, but I do want you to use at least 30 minutes, because you've got a year's worth of work here. So blending in and talking about this and talking about what you may have learned, and timing yourself for each one of that is going to be very important. And again, the reason we have a short period of time is that, one, it makes you think about what's most important. What can I say that's on this chart? So you don't read the charts, you say the most important things. And the other thing, it's been, I think, in many quality professionals' life, and it's been true for mine, is that typically with a master's degree, you're also working at a little higher level than in the organization, that briefing senior people. A lot of times they don't have a lot of time. You got to do it in 30 minutes or an hour, and you got to be concise, and you have to know what you want to say. And because you've known the champion and worked with them, you're not at zero in here, but it's just a good technique is to say, okay, where are we? Now, okay, so Megan, you're going to start out, and then do a quick introduction here. Don't spend very much time on that. And Christopher is going to be around how long? The Dunstan, the commander, is he midway through his tour, or how long is he going to be there? Do you know?
He's leaving this summer.
Okay.
I think June, July, he'll be leaving.
I've seen sometimes champions, if they like a project and it's going to get TU on, they tuck it in as part of their continuity book or their transition book. I've had a lot of teams come back and say, hey, look, I have a champion that's getting close to the end of the tour. We provided some recommendations or some long-term type of things. And they actually just pulled out, gave him the briefing, and then he used it to in-brief his turtle, his incoming guy, and gave him so here's what was going on to that. So that may be even something, if he's going to be leaving in the next 3 to 6 months, he may want to do. Okay. When you briefed him, was there any particular feedback that you had? What was your read of him as you went through this?
I think reading from his, because I listened again to his tape because we put a link to YouTube, and I think he's really amenable and willing to listen. He had some very key updates or feedback that he gave us that I think really hit on a couple of things that we were missing. And once after the meeting and you get back to the transcripts and dig into the transcripts, rereading what his comments were, that put us on an even better path to getting down to the nitty-gritty with regards to the project, sir.
Okay. Do you have some examples what he gave you as feedback?
Yes, sir. So in the beginning of this whole project, one of the key things that we wanted to do is to establish that civilian liaison position. And one of the things that we were looking into was that civilian interacting perhaps with the civilian vendors. And for the last meeting that was just done, he highlighted the fact that we are not authorized to do that. Like the unit is not authorized to have anybody interact directly with the civilian vendor. They have someone to do that, a contracting agency, or not a contracting agency, but there's a location, a key central location within the Air Force that takes care of that. And that's our liaison. So if we were to hire that civilian person for the maintenance crew, that civilian person will interact with that contracting, I forgot the name of it, that does it for the Air Force. It's a military person or an office, and they're the ones that have the authority to interact with the civilian vendors. So
normally there's some.
So
you are.
Yes, sir. And yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And he highlighted the fact as well that we have to count in the fact that they do coming in during the weekends, and that's something we need to take into consideration as well. And when we're looking at the timing and the more downtime for the aircrafts, because the fact that they're coming into the weekends working and they aren't able to turn in the bad parts to get new parts, that's adding on to the time that the aircrafts will stay on the ground. So.
Okay. Yeah, because I think when we were back together in Master Business Process 2, I don't think your recommendations were formulated there. So I'm very interested to see what you have with that. And that's where I want to spend most of my time tonight. I'm going to just kind of walk through, because you're not going to necessarily have to break the questions as you go through it. Let me know. Yeah.
Professor, can you hear me?
Yes.
I had a question just to see what you think for the vendors. Like we've got Rolls-Royce and Lockheed. We have civilian, we call them AFID reps, but basically they're in our unit, but they help us with the maintenance side. Like if questions we have with the aircraft, and we were looking at using them because they already work for the company and they're already working in our unit, but it's a lot of logistics with the contract. They dig deep in the contract because they really don't want to do that. So that's the problem we're having with that. We have the people from the company working with us already, but there's a lot of logistics with the contracts. And like you said, we do come in on the weekends, and then we'd have to pay those guys extra to come in on the weekends if we needed them.
Yeah, if they're, company reps or representatives of the manufacturer or whatever, they're always going to have a contract in place. And something like that would be a long-term type of recommendation. In other words, if you want to make it a modification to the contract, and then say, okay, part of your duties that we were in a contract will include X, Y, Z that weren't there before. And so then whenever the contract has come due or when the modification is in place, it does have a longer timeline. It has to go through the acquisition regulations. So typically like that, it's a longer term activity. If I'm understanding what you're saying, Jay, that currently there's not a requirement to do these tasks, or is it in the contract and they're just not executing?
It's not in the contract, and that's what they're using. But our aircraft are brand new, and I think after the warranty, we already have 2 that are out of warranty. I think after warranty, they'll review the contracts and maybe we can adjust it there somehow.
Yeah, that will require then writing probably either another statement of work or making the modification. But it has to come from the Air Force, and then the contracting officers will write it up, and then either they recompete this and see if somebody else gets it, or they add it to the current contract as additional task. But anything that's not currently in there, if they're getting paid as a contractor, that's not going to go too far. Just from experience. So, yeah. Okay, but that could be a longer term recommendation with that. And then let me, because I want to actually, talk with you when we get down further. Let me just say on this one, the key things you should say on the MAIC model when you introduce it, it's Lean Six Sigma, a proven methodology. It's the methodology used throughout the year, and you're going to align your presentation to that. Now, when Megan, after you get finished with that, and then you go into the define phase, right? And you say, okay, here's a little bit about the define phase. This is the first part of this. This is what we're doing. We have our problem statement. We'll talk about the scope. We'll talk about the customer's requirements. And then later, as we transition, and when each one of you starts up a new phase, be sure you talk a little bit about what happens in the measure phase and then the analysis phase. So when you go in and go from this, and then you go to the measure phase, be sure you talk a little bit about what goes on in that, because that's the part that we're looking for. Okay. This is also sometimes a very good chart to include, not only here, but at the end of the presentation, because you should come back and say, what are your recommendations and how is it improving this rate that you indicated? And so this one here is an important one, but you want to refer back to it when you talk about your results. About how do you think your results are going to decrease the non-availability time and that type of thing. Hopefully, be sure you reflect back on that. And this isn't the only time you should talk about the problem statement. It should be that. Okay. What's a couple of key points about the as-is process chart here? What would be some things that you want to highlight about that? Why is it in the define phase as opposed to measure or analyze at this point?
So, that's one of the things I wanted to be able to speak with you about, sir, because as I look through the slides and thinking that where we are at this time, that was one of the questions in my head, whether the phases of the MAIC process that were embedded in there, if they were, that's how, we had them prior, but I don't know if, as we are right now, if that's the right place for them. I was kind of like in an upheaval in regards to that, unsure.
Because you're following basically that Microsoft Word document, right? That has charts in it.
Say again, sorry, breaking off.
Yeah, and so that kind of is the flow. It'll follow the define, measure, analyze, improve generally, and you can move some charts back and forth within that. But I want to be sure that you can associate these charts with each one. And one of the key things, Megan, are you gonna be briefing this, or is this somebody else at this point?
I'm only 1 through 4. After that, it goes to DeCarlo.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the one briefing.
Okay, DeCarlo. Okay, all right. In here, when you brief the as is, and the reason really it's in the define phase at this point is also because of scope. It's just like writing a contract, if you will, or do it. Here's the requirements for our contract. Here's our problem statement. Here's the things we got to deliver. Okay. And then in here, you're talking about the scope of it. We're not looking at these type of aircraft. We're not looking at what's included, excluded. If you remember that, that's one of the important things about the as is that we're looking at from this start point to this end point. We're not looking at any other type of, processes that may be connected to this. These are the scope of our project. Tells you what departments or what's important to that. So it's important to that. In the measure phase, you could actually take the same chart and use it in their measure phase, because if you take this chart and say, okay, we start to look at how many times, our parts on hand, and we start to measure, we thought we're going to use that, start measuring how many times that occurs. And then we're going to look at how much time it takes, and you start to measure things. So in the measure phase, you could actually take the same chart and say, okay, this is what we're using to collect performance data and current performance. And in the define phase, be sure you bring in words like scope. This helps us figure out the scope. And then you talk about what's included and excluded in that. Okay. Does that make sense? You comfortable with that, Nicole?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. SIPOC, again, say what it is, describe it a little bit, and then, here's the important part. Now, of these things here, did you really get into supplier issues here as much? Was this really important then, part of your project?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, and for some of the folks that in our class, the supplier was not really significant, but it kind of sounds like, because you're really talking about parts, it really was.
Yeah,
Did
the
you have
suppliers, yeah, that's our main problem is the supplier.
Yeah, yeah. Did you have additional charts? And I haven't got all the way from your supplier class. Was that beneficial to you, or is there anything you got from that you'd be able to include?
We had a supply flow map. I think
Okay.
that was, I don't know if we could use that. Well, we could use it as an additional slide, I guess.
Yeah, the reason I bring that up, because the school, if you look at that list that you were provided, there was no requirement from any of the charts or information from your last class. And that is because some of this doesn't pertain to them as much as is maybe some of the other teams. And because you really are kind of focused on that, if you want to include a chart you think is relevant, and it wasn't in that list, feel free to add it. If you did some analysis of the suppliers and provided recommendations from that class, and you think it's pertinent to your project, feel free to add that, even though it wasn't on that list. So having said that, I'll let you make the decision whether something like that goes in or not. It's not required, but it may be pertinent for you guys. Okay. Okay. Define as we go. We've talked about that before. Customer requirements, data collection. Now, did you? Where's the? You got the data collection, and who's going to be briefing this? Is this still the call?
Me too. Me, sir.
Judith, you're going to pick up here. Okay. Now, typically, in behind your data collection, you have all the data that you collected here. Okay. Because I know you have other data that you collected, other charts in addition to this one, about parts ordered, received late, those type of things. You have other charts of the data collection that you're not currently showing in there?
One moment, sir. Let's see.
Yeah, because you got in here like parts received late, monthly, number of days, non-mission waiting parts. Do you have that data? Is that in here?
I think so. If we go to our health of the fleet
Yes.
slides, it's going to have some of those numbers in there, that data.
Okay. And did you show that to the champion? Data that you actually collected, some of that?
Yes, sir. I think all those slides were presented from last time.
Yes, they
but not the
were.
health of the fleet. Yeah.
Because you did some value stream mapping too, right?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes, sir.
And that was
Uh,
presented. Yeah, that was presented too.
okay. Hold on. Let's see. Now let me take a look at it. Oh yeah, pretty dynamic chart there. Kind of bright. But it is your data that you collected about how long things take, right? So anything that you did for collect data that's on this list would be appropriate for you to include in behind that, okay? So, and if you looked at the sheet they gave you, it says have your data collection, but also any of the data support. And that's what you would do in your presentation. So if the information you collected, how things were laid, how long it took, all that type of thing would be appropriate to come in right after that. Okay. And then you got your fishbone diagram. Okay. Any of these more important than the rest that's on there?
Yes, sir. The supply and the vendors. That's what we had highlighted somehow. I forgot to highlight it again. But
Okay.
we wanted to highlight the supply and vendors.
Yeah, because then, as you talk about, okay, first thing, fishbone diagram helps us to identify qualitative data, reasons why we're not making this mission capable. Then you highlight,
Sure.
the key things that came out, how you collected the data, maybe how you used it. But this then, and you're right up.
Showing the course.
Are you briefing together, or do you separate these out?
One after the other. I think I have up to 12.
Okay. All right. So, and key points from the Pareto. What would be things you would want to say when you introduce this chart?
Oops.
For Pareto. Okay. This is what I'm referring to. Before you do your briefing, just kind of go back and look at the definitions of these. What's a Pareto chart? Remember the 28? Got, we're going to be focusing in on those that are underneath the 80% line, which is right about here, looks like.
Yes, sir.
This becomes the focus of what you should do in the rest of your project. So that type of thing, where you introduce, here's the Pareto chart, here's what its purpose, and then here's what we focus in on based on this information. And, this is, part of the briefing that you describe that as you go forward.
Yes, sir.
Good. Yeah. And then, let's see, benchmarking. Okay. You've got names and stuff that you found. Are there recommendations that you got from your benchmarking that you are going to recommend to your champion?
I don't, not necessarily.
I don't think so.
No,
I mean, we showed him the slide, but
it was a good to know, but not good to have,
yeah.
really.
Yeah, because these one of the things who's got this one? Who's going to be briefing?
Matthew has that one.
Matthew, okay. Be sure in the remarks you say, okay, here's describe primary and secondary benchmark. Did you do any primary benchmarks? Another organization, unit, taking a look at their processes about how they do this?
Yes, we all did, I think, sir. We all did the primary and the secondary, and then we went with the.
Do you remember what the distinction is between primary and secondary? What's the difference between primary and secondary benchmarking?
Secondary is like outsourcing, analyzing different organizations or companies. And then primary, that's more like internal, right?
Internal is a type of.
That's a type of benchmarking, I guess.
Secondary, I saw the secondary benchmarking as what we said, well, comparing like the armor paint case studies we've had, like how one makes it work, one company made it work, and how we can apply what they've done to fix our problems. And so then we give it a try as well to see what if they made it work, perhaps using their tactics, techniques, and procedures, we can make it work with our problem as well. That's how, when I was looking for secondary benchmarking, seeing the same problem set, what was their approach to that problem set, and can we use that approach? Can that approach work for us?
Okay. And this is something I would recommend that you review, because the primary, what I'm looking for, is where you actually make contact with another organization, whether you either go visit them, you contact them on the telephone, and you have a discussion, you exchange charts, you make a visit. Primary. Secondary,
research, right?
Researching in the public domain. That means going on using search engines, Google, information you may find in publications. So that's secondary benchmark, which requirement of this course, the primary was not. So you make a distinction, say, okay, here's primary and secondary, indicate whether you did any primary. And then what you, from this, was there anything, because you just showed the topics that you looked at, but the question is, was there anything in your reading research, did you develop recommendations about how to improve the project? And if you are, you can use those recommendations for improvement, and typically in right after this, or you could in construction when you improve stage and say, okay, here's what we gained from that. We've got a lot of great benefit. Here's so when you brief this, be sure you cover primary and secondary. If there's any findings, if you had no findings from your reviewed a lot of sides, we understand the process, but we really didn't have anything we are now recommending. So close, yeah, we do, or we ended up, we didn't have any recommendations from this. That's kind of what I'm looking for. What was the result of your benchmarking, not necessarily the topics that.
Okay.
I'm going to kind of keep the pace. I actually got another team backed up after you, so I've got to. I want to be sure I get through to the meat thing. Okay, you got your root cause analysis, order fulfillment. Okay, what is here? You've got process, new, refurbished, monopoly-like, status, sole supplier. Is this supposed to be a 5Y, or what is on this chart here? These are root causes of cost drivers. Okay, I'm not, so process, are these the things that are costing you the most money? Is that what this is here?
Order fulfillment, organization. I think they're factors.
Yeah, I think they're the factors. I think when we had that class, I think he wanted us to kind of like just bold them, and that's what we had done. And then below it was just the factors of what could cause it.
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't, if you as you read this, and you're kind of scratching your head about what do we mean.
Yeah, it could be worded. It could be worded better, but all of those things that are listed there are factors in time. Order fulfillment. We're not getting the order fulfilled on time. Warehouse organization. Sometimes the parts get there, but they're lost because they're not organized over there. Transportation and exchange of the parts. As like we're saying, we were trying to get us, the maintenance guys, to go over and pick up their own parts and turn them in instead of waiting on supply to come deliver the parts and come pick up the broken parts. I think we just need to reword it a little bit.
Yes, I agree.
Make it flow.
Because typically when you do root causes, you have the kind of the 5 why thinking also, like order fulfillment's a problem. Okay, why is order fulfillment a problem? Well, because of a warehouse organization is conducive to processing.
It was broken down a little bit more, sir, but we were told to condense it a little bit more and just keep key notes somewhere so we could explain the slides. So that's why it brought down to that.
Because unless you have kind of a chain of thought where one's connected to another, you have causes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, not this, and that would be appropriate for like your fishbone diagram, right? You can even do another fishbone diagram because it's just less causes. But if you have the 5 whys, you want to kind of have that laid out that way. So if you introduce root, then you could even do it that way, because this would be another fishbone diagram pretty easily. If you have 5 why you want to use, okay, so give that one some thought. Okay,
Yes,
so these are your recommendations for improvement?
Yes, sir. Those were the 4 recommendations we came up with.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about. You may want to just number them to be really, what's your first one? Okay. One is set up a 24-hour 3-shift schedule. Okay. So you're recommending changing it to a 24-hour shift?
Yeah, currently, when we started this project, they only had 1 shift. That was a day shift operation. But the maintenance side has 3 shifts.
Okay. Okay. The maintainer is now allowed to pick up their own parts instead of waiting for parts, so they can go drive. Is that a recommendation for improvement, or is that something that?
That's a fact now.
Okay. Yeah. So what you may consider when you lay these things out is which ones are immediate that you can recommend and he can implement or have been implemented already, the changes in the process and whatever recommendations, and maybe the ones that are longer term, which certainly would be, anything that has to do with personnel. If you add on-call personnel, who would that be? And sometimes, like we talked about changing a contract or something like that, that's going to be a longer term type of thing. So another way to rate your recommendations is here's some short term things we can do immediately in the next 90 days, and then longer term. Often that's a good way to categorize things.
Yes, sir.
What's the difference between this state and the one back earlier?
That's the as is, and the other one is what we want it to be, or what we're trying to improve it to be.
What's the major differences between the two? Reduce any steps, you add a step. What's the difference between this?
We defined a little bit the civilian position. We defined that a little bit more.
Yeah, because what you can do, or probably a good way to do this, would be take this one, okay, and what's the different changes in the processes here, and you color code that so it kind of jumps out. Where is the change that you're recommending, so you can see in the process where you're interdicting the civilian, where would he be involved. But I was trying to determine what's the difference between your as is and the future. And a good way to do that is just sometimes you just put a box up here and says, you know, here's my recommendation. You know, decreasing the steps or adding another coordination. So you kind of highlight it, whatever. You can either put a text box in it like that or highlight and say, what's the change in this? But it's not self-evident. You've got, I think, an order parts to here. You're making recommendations right there, right? So you may want to highlight that so it really jumps out, and then discuss, you know, what's the impact of that. So.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So you're recommending training, different training type of thing?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what are you going to be training them on?
We training them on the warehouse procedures and just whatever procedure it is to go pick up a part. Because when you go pick up a part, you've got to sign for it. You've got to have certain tags and documentations to bring over there, and had to be filled out a certain way.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's really kind of that. You know. Okay. So you have a new process of how you pick up the parts that they can go out and pick it up. Okay. How much time does that save? Is that going to be a benefit?
The training.
Yeah. No, I mean because is your recommendation, I guess, because your recommendation is what? That they go pick it up the part as opposed to.
We had our swing shift order a part. They could go pick it up from the warehouse instead of waiting for supply to come back in the next day,
Okay.
process it, and then deliver it.
Okay. Is that on here? Okay, you got it right here, right? That's the recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in order to just make this recommendation go, so this would be like recommendation number 3, which you recommend for number 3 would be, let's just tell the guys the new procedures, what they can do, you know, how they would pick that up. This would be, so you tie that into that recommendation a little bit more cleaner. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
You got your recommendations that, hey, they can go pick up the parts, and now it seems like you're now recommending that before they go do that you're train them. Is that right? On the
Yes, sir.
procedure? Yeah. Okay. So then that's that one. Implementation, request on call be assigned. Whoops. Okay. Now, if there's going to be people involved, like if you have to go to adding new people on or stuff like that, part of your implementation strategy may be having to talk to contracting, see if they can do a mod to the contract, that type of thing. Is this on-call personnel internal, or is this somebody that you have to add to?
Internal.
Who is all personnel?
It'd be internal.
Okay,
Be
is
like,
it like
supply and warehouse people, the military people. Because like sometimes we do come in on the weekend, but supply and warehouse is not open on the weekends.
Okay. All right. So your recommendation is open on the weekend. You have on-call personnel.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good. All right. So that's very clear. I mean, it's there, and then I'll probably be very. The person who's got the shift. Okay, so that's something new, right? Okay. And then let's see, feasibility. Okay. Okay, so you get your recommendations, implement it. Now, as I said, maybe think about what short-term, long-term. Just kind of add, be sure that these are cleanly tied, you know, to your other recommendations as you go forward. I'm not going to quibble with your financials here. And your monitoring control, do you know what goes here? Do you have some ideas on that?
We were brainstorming a bit about that.
Yeah, a little bit. We'd have to have a policy letter signed by the champion or our commander.
Okay. Yeah, well, that'd be part of your implementation strategy. And here, okay, you think this non-mission, this gets back to your problem statement. Remember, that's what we're trying to solve. All right. How is your project improving these numbers here? these important numbers, do you think that the unavailable time due to parts is going to go down? I mean, you're going to get better?
Yes, sir. I think the
That's the goal.
FMC rate will go up.
Okay. Then part of your recommendation for improvement is to monitor that and see whether these procedures, does move that thing up a tick. Okay. In other words, that's your outcome because you want to, go back. Okay. After you, have this Saturday, or on call on the weekends and letting them go pick up things, see if that does do it in that. You may have maybe just an informal survey with the maintainers or people in that and says, does this process work better? What are your recommendations? And maybe you have part of your evaluation says, hey, once we implement this, let's just have a short survey. Is this more efficient? Is this saving you time? Do you think this is improving on a scale of 1 to 5? Yes, no, or on the Likert scale, strongly agree, disagree, whatever that might be, and you'll get some informal feedback about what the people think about your recommendations. As the on-call person on the weekend made a difference. Has that worked out well? And maybe just a short survey. That's one way to also in your control to say, we recommend you look at your readiness rate, but maybe also talk to the folks who are involved and see what their feedback is about, has this improved the process? That type of thing. And a lot of times what you measure, in other words, the amount of time, for instance, and I would recommend, by the way, that you just chart your value stream out, put it in that. You go back and say, how long does it take to get parts, or how long, and it's several hours, and now they can go pick it up directly, and it's down to 2 hours. You may just, they get a ballpark. Say, okay, evaluate, is parts being more available, quicker on site, and that could be done again, maybe with just a short survey that they would implement. Maybe draft one up, maybe just a quick survey. Say, hey, recommend that you use this next 3 months after we do this, see if it hits the target. Tangible, intangible. Intangible is you're making the life better. For instance, the maintainers really like this idea that they can go pick things up, or we've made it a lot easier for people working on the weekend to get to parts, and even though we initially thought that may be a hindrance, but we worked out a schedule, they have time off, whatever that might be. Really, it turned out to be a better thing because they're getting the aircraft out quicker. Intangible results are kind of like what the people within the organization think, from the process. Your tangible.
Morale.
Do you have any question about the difference between tangible and intangible, or what you have been briefing? Here it's tangible, it's stuff that you can measure, right? It's like we think that readiness rate's going to go, parts will be more available, that type of thing. Intangible is people's attitude about making their life better.
No question, sir.
Yeah, brainstorm that, because this, and if you are, unsure, and you want me to take a look at it before you get, into your final brief, we're glad to do that. This is your lessons learned as a team. Which did you learn as you went through this process? You've probably also learned a lot of things, for instance, laying out what you learned from interacting with the champions as you're going through. You need to collect data. We recommend you need to collect data in areas that we haven't collected before. That was difficult because we haven't done that before. So this is stuff that you guys kind of brainstorm. This is where the comments you should draw from the feedback, summarize it here. And the other thing it would be, are there applications to any other parts of what you're doing here to the organization or unit? Is there anything else that this could be of benefit to as you go through this? And if so, you put a slide in here, applications to other areas. So think about it. If you can't think of any, then so be it. But often the teams do come up and say, hey, this what we thought about here, allowing the maintainer to go pick up the parts and that type of thing may have application to other airframes, or it has application to other type of work we're doing. And so that's typically what gets into that. So we're right about time. I'm going to have to jump here, but let me kind of go around and see any questions about what we covered or things that you're not clear of at this point.
No, sir. We just have to put our heads together and go through this within your notes and put it together.
Yeah, well, with the tangible and intangible, did you want us to do a slide and just have a list under each?
Yeah, because the tangible ones, we're getting the parts quicker. They're going to be more available. You can measure that, right? But if you go back to the data you collected, go back to measure phase. Typically, if you had your data there, how long things or how many were not available, that type of thing, and there you can say, okay, started out we had many were not available during this time period, and now X more are available. So those are tangible things you can measure. And intangibles are the things that like the benefit to the people within the organization. People are going to be that's being as frustrated looking for parts or waiting for parts because you are reduced the tension between the suppliers and these guys because that was a point of contention with them. Sometimes that is, guys can't do the work and they're pointing the fingers at the warehouse, and the warehouse says these guys aren't putting the orders in and stuff like that. So intangible often reduces those type of friction points, and so consider that. I would recommend you kind of think about that because a lot of your briefing should be, so here's our anticipated improvements, but you got to go back to the data that you collected in the measure phase and say, okay, how many were unavailable and that type of thing. That's kind of important to reflect back to is what are the measurable things and unmeasurable. So if you want to generate that and you want to send it to me and get my comment, well, if you're not sure if you're on the right track, there's also a discussion questions around tangible and intangible, kind of see if you got the concept. Be glad to look at it as we go forward.
Roger that.
Okay. All right. Jay, you got anything else?
I do not.
Okay. Megan?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. DeCollum? Colum? Okay. Hey, well, thanks, guys.
No, sir.
I'm sorry, did I step on somebody? Okay. All right. Hey, Matthew, thank you. Let me know when you're thinking about your final brief, and if you want to get together again before we do the final brief, that's a fair offer. I'm open most nights and weekends. If you want to set something up that you want to go through as a team, once you do that briefing, the final briefing, and get the uploads, then you're completed with the class as long as it's done satisfactorily. So if you want to, but I recommend spend some time, you reorganize this, rehearse it, kind of be sure you're clear about every single chart, and do put in your best effort next time we get together. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Hope you have a good evening.
You too, sir. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
Good night.